I wanted to head to the beginning of the Battle Pack timeline to see what the first ever Battle Pack looked like, with the long-term goal of working my way back up to the present, taking a look at all of them. For now, I aim to see what staple aspects were born on the very first go, and perhaps some things that didn't survive the test of time. Look back at the elements that really make this set vintage. We'll also be touching on how this Battle Pack's influence is alive and well in 2024. And lastly, we'll of course be looking at those vintage clone troopers. Before we talk about those figures, we must first review the brick-built contents. The builds on display in this pack vary in quality. On one hand, you've got a nice and neat little turret/barricade that works quite well in an army building setting. It would stand to reason that frontline soldiers would need these en masse. It's also an incredibly simple and easy little thing to put together. In this context, this set is solid. In terms of its complementary build, I have slightly less enthusiasm. This thing is very blocky, definitely showing its age. I'm unable to really suspend my disbelief when looking at it. All I see is a flat 2x10 and not a speeder. These engine block pieces are nice and do aid the design somewhat, however, to my eye, this thing doesn't look great. Future battle packs for sure build on this speeder in big ways. Though aside from that, there's a couple of builds in a battle pack, these are fine. Two very simple, very easy to put together little builds that lend well to being multiplied. So far this set understands what it needs to be. I do enjoy the spot for the clone troopers weapons. It completes the builds and also serves as storage. This set also debuts that blaster piece, which is a cool little fun fact. So this is the part of the video where I talk about those weird clone troopers. My goodness, these things are weird. First of all, who are you trying to fool? Secondly, the front drops down too far, the bottom of the helmet looks flared for some reason, the shape and look of the visor is completely different, the helmet overall just looks like an exaggerated version of the one from the movie. I speculate that the cutout visor was a design element that was included for continuity, as the previous Phase 1 clones had that exact same design element, and perhaps that heavily swayed the overall look of this design, but I have no idea for certain. Also, that fin is huge. Looking at the clone trooper as a complete package, I feel the rest of the design is alright. The lack of leg printing again shows this set's age. The printing on the front and the back of the torso looks alright as well. I mean, the back printing less so. Moving on to the shock trooper, we see the liberally applied red. That does continue round to the back, which is a nice little touch. This shock trooper also falls into the category of, I kind of see where their head's at. This is where no leg printing actually comes in to take away from the figure. I understand it's a product of its time, but plain white legs are very distracting compared to the red of the torso. It's interesting to see that the markings on the helmet are the same shapes and in the same position as the 2023 shock trooper. In fact, that goes for the torso print as well. Interesting to note how much of the LEGO shock trooper design started here. Overall, this minifigure is alright. Lastly, we have a 327th Star Corps Trooper. Right off the bat, I had no idea this is what the minifigure was representing. It seems like a pretty random choice, but after comparing it, it certainly looks the part. This minifigure features polite yellow markings and some additional details on the upper torso. I enjoy the look of this minifigure. The additional printing on the torso looks good, including a printed pauldron. The printed pauldron seems to merely be there to enhance the look of a physical one though. This clone trooper appears in more expensive sets, and it seems its physical pauldron pairing is reserved for those pricier sets. It's nice to see that we get some representation of a pauldron here at the very least. It gets the job done. The printing does a good job of distinguishing this minifigure. Overall, things might sound slightly negative, but my opinions of these clone minifigures are heavily coloured by those helmets. To my eye, they do not work as clone trooper helmets. However, the selection of clone troopers is pretty nice. We have a decent variety of clone, rounding it out. So then, what exactly did this battle pack start? Firstly, it's the start of speeders in battle packs. It's the perfect little build to include, so I have no doubt they would have eventually included them, but this is where it all began. A lot of the Clone Trooper battle packs released after this followed the pattern of two duplicate minifigures with two unique specialist minifigures. This idea starts getting messy the closer to the present we get, but it stayed consistent for those first few years. Looking at the box art of this battle pack, it's obvious that it serves as a companion to the simultaneously released Droid battle pack. This Versus idea also carried over into future releases. It's also become very apparent that the Clone Trooper vs Droid Mega Pack seems to be a pretty faithful remake of both this battle pack and its accompanying Droid battle pack. From the minifigure selection, even down to the little details like the blasters being used in builds and binoculars. The builds in the recent Mega Pack look like updated versions of those original Speeder and Barricade, borrowing colour schemes and design choices. So overall, I find this particular battle pack to be a product of its time, from the design of the Clone Trooper's helmet to the construction of particular builds. This year's battle pack represents just how far these sets have come in both of those aspects. Though it's fun going back and seeing just what this battle pack started, and how it became the blueprint for battle packs to come. And with all that being said, Thank you for watching.